and at worst, dangerous. Yet where do young people learn about the risks? And I hope we can all agree that when young women begin menstruating, they deserve to understand their own bodies, yet where do they learn that it is natural? In this age of iPhones and YouTube, we need to have a place where our students learn evidence-based information about their bodies and relationships so that they can make informed decisions in their lives. Of course, as a parent or a guardian in Virginia, you have the right to opt out of family life education. So you can teach your children in any way you feel is appropriate. And I encourage all parents and guardians to engage in an open dialogue about family life education with their children. But this bill does not do that. This bill attempts to limit young people's access to critical life lessons. Here in Virginia, we need to be looking at ways to strengthen family life education. But this bill would cause a significant drop in the number of young people receiving any sort of education on these topics. There is nothing wrong with the way the current opt-out system works. To make this an opt-in would create an administrative burden for schools, as they now have to collect all of the opt-ins rather than the opt-outs. And parents already have a meaningful opportunity to review and opt out at a family life education. It's called family life education instead of sex education for a reason. There are critical lessons taught in these classes like substance use and abuse, coping with stress and peer pressure, suicide prevention, prevention of dating violence, and the meaning of consent. This bill will surely mean many of our Virginia students will not receive these essential lessons. I strongly urge all my colleagues to oppose this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Delegate for Virginia Beach, Delegate Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Delegate has the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, in the past I've always been relatively flexible on this because I agree with the delegate that there is a value to family life education, but sex education is still a part of the equation, and I've always thought that the most important piece is the parental involvement. And one thing that opt-in ensures is that the parents know what's going on, because little Johnny or little Susie, when they come home, may have not felt comfortable asking a question in school. And the parents need to understand what's being taught and when it's being taught, so they're prepared to answer those questions. I think there's tremendous value for that. But, Mr. Speaker, really where I took a hard stance this year and came down hard in subcommittee and full committee was based upon what happened over the summer in Albemarle. You see, I remember waking up one day and reading an article over some YouTube videos that had been approved to be shown to 9th graders in Albemarle. Now, I won't tell you what the name of the YouTube videos were. I won't tell you what they did, but I would suffice it to say that it would make all of us in here blush. And to that extent, I think the parents need to realize what is being shown, if not for a significant ability to be prepared for what's going to be shown to their child in cases of extreme overreach, but at least an understanding of them realizing it's about to be taught to them and they need to go see this stuff. Mr. Speaker, I think we can all think that if everything was reasonable, we'd have no problem with this, but there's no problem whatsoever for parents opting in to know when this is going to happen so they're prepared, and to ensure that they understand sometimes the extreme videos that do get shown to their children, unfortunately.
Delegate from Loudoun, Delegate LaRock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaking to the bill.
Speaking to the bill.
Delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The simple goal of this HB 2570 is to leave FLE content alone and ensure that parents have the information they need to be part of the child's education process. Mr. Speaker, part of the reason I put this bill in is when I realized that there are numerous studies. I won't read them, but I will read just the top level talking points from 2 studies, if I may. 2 sentences. This is from the National Coalition of Parental Involvement in Education from 2006, Research Review and Resources. Parent involvement in education is crucial, no matter their background or income. Students with involved parents are more likely to have higher grades and test scores and attend school regularly, have better skills, and show improved behavior and adapt well to school. I'll leave it I'll leave the rest of the studies out of this discussion, but there are many more. Mr. Speaker, they call this family life education for a good reason. Whatever the sensitive subjects are, relationships, or any of the numbers of ones that the delegate from NRICO mentioned, involving parents will be a good thing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Bulova.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen of the House, and I just want to reiterate that there's nothing broken with the current system that we can't go ahead and fix. And to the Delegate Davis's point, I supported the bill that was put in with regard to making sure that there is an opt-out for any kind of very violent or graphic material with regard to suicide prevention and other like topics. And I think his remarks demonstrated the utility of that, because we were able to go ahead and see that there might be an issue, and that we were able to go ahead and empower our parents to be able to review that material and to opt their students out if necessary. I will tell you, I have 3 children. Every single one of them have gone through public education, and every single one of them has brought home to me a form that tells me exactly what I ought to be looking for, and those do prompt conversations. The system works, Mr. Speaker. I'll also end with regard to the mundane issue of the administration of these programs. And I want to point out that only 3% of students in Fairfax County decide to opt out. If we reverse that and we say 97% have to opt in, we are really harming our family life education programs for the long term. And as Delegate Robbins says, that means that our children are not going to be learning fundamental issues and life lessons with regard to dating violence, with regard to looking at abuse, with regard to looking at human trafficking, and other lessons in the lifetime that are extraordinarily critical. So I hope that we would not pass this bill, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Delegate from Augusta, Delegate Landis.
Mr. Speaker, speaking to the bill.
Delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, I am not tended to rise on a Friday afternoon when we still have a lot of business to complete. But having just in the last 2 years had a young man who's had to go through these programs, I want to tell you one thing that you may not be aware. Our family life education system has added more and more and more, and it's been detailed on the floor of the House today. The problem is, when I talk to parents of my son's classmates, they did not know half of the discussion that occurs in the classroom related to family life education. Now, maybe the school system is responsible for that, maybe they're not, but the fact is, many parents don't know what's happening in family life education, and I agree those topics are important. I do not see any problem with opting in from the standpoint of this. We all talk about getting families and parents involved in education. Well, I can tell you the best way to do that is to make sure that they know fully what is included in family life education. And the best way to do that is to have them to opt in, because what's going to happen is school systems, parents are going to start having a discussion of what are these items that are being discussed? Are they appropriate? Are they not appropriate? Do I want my child to actually be involved in that discussion or not? And that is true parental involvement and participation. So opting in is going to promote that. It's going to help our school systems, and it's going to help the parents and students really understand what they are going to encounter related to their family life education curriculum. So I hope you will support this legislation.
Delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Delegate has the floor.
Thank you. As a former school board member, I spent those 10 years working hard in every way that I could imagine to get family involvement in their children's education. And all the studies that have been cited on the floor are absolutely true. But one thing that we are forgetting in this conversation is that school boards must make family life materials available for the public, not just families, not just parents, but anyone to come and view the materials. My school board usually had the materials at several different libraries. and publicly advertised that they were available for comment and inspection. And also, most school boards accompany that with a family life advisory committee. There is involvement, and the materials are always agreed upon, and if there is any controversy, the school board will not adopt them. This bill does not help. I urge the body to vote against it. Thank you.
Delegate from Caroline, Delegate Orrock.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a motion.
Delegate has the floor.
I move the pending question.
Delegate Orrock moves the pending question. All those in favor of that motion will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The pending question is moved. Shall the bill be engrossed and passed to third reading? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Chair is in doubt. Division. Okay. Put your hands up if you want. Ayes and nays are called for. Shall the bill be engrossed and passed to third reading? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 50, noes 46.
Ayes 50, noes 46.